So I'm Laura, and I'm Zach's mom. Zach was just a wonderful kid from day one. He was just a sweet little baby and toddler, and he loved to laugh and smile. He was the baby brother of three and just really doted on, and he just brought a lot of joy anywhere that he went. He was just a really happy kid. He always loved to push himself, like in a really positive way, not like in a stressed out, anxious way, but he just always loved to see like set challenges for himself and see if he could do it. And he really inspired a lot of his friends. So whenever he knew a friend was kind of struggling in a class or something like that, because he was always a straight A student. Friends would reach out to him, for help, and he loved to help. He loved to elevate, everybody that was around him. He was a very social guy. So he had a really, really sweet circle of friends from like third grade on. I mean, his core group of friends were like from that young, on, and a real diverse, group of kids, diverse group of interests, and they all just had the best time together. He loved performing. He was a self-taught pianist. He starred in Whitney's musical. He was Troy Bolton in High School Musical. He did that just before the lockdowns. And you can talk about his athletic stuff, but yeah, he loved the arts.
Well, my name is Chris Didiers. I'm Zach's dad, and this is our handsome, amazing son, Zach. And many of you may have already known him from Granite Oaks Middle School. He stayed really close to his Rockland High School friends and, of course, Whitney. Zach is a brilliant young man who is capable of competing and to challenge himself. He was happy to explore new options, to make new friends. He really was hungry to live in this world and was capable of imagining new ways to live life. He valued his friendships significantly, tremendously, and of course his relationships with his family, especially his sister and brother. Zach was a recognized multi-sport athlete. He loved to run track for the high school. He was in track at Granite Oaks, but then transitioned right into Whitney High School and did track his freshman year and his sophomore year. And during his sophomore year, he excelled. He started off on the junior varsity team, and then pretty early in the season, he advanced to the varsity team and ended up going to the San Joaquin CIF sectionals and was the only student in his school, albeit as a sophomore, to participate in his event in the 100 meter high hurdle. He also played soccer. He was on the Rockland Falcons recreational soccer team and was our star defender. And one of the best things about it is he was really fast on the soccer field. Obviously, he was trained through track. So he was respected by his team. He loved to lead. He loved to bring people together and celebrated life with his friends significantly. So.
Yeah, and we saw all of that, as his parents. Of course, we would see him every day, and we would see all of that. But what was so incredibly special was after he passed, I actually noticed I was getting a lot of likes and things on Instagram. I wasn't very active on Instagram. I'm more the Facebook generation. But I noticed as I was sharing pictures of Zach and memories and memorial posts, I was getting a lot of likes and things from people I didn't know. And then I looked to see that who we had in common was Zach. And these were friends of Zach's. And quite a number wrote me private messages and just said, you didn't know me, but I knew Zach. And they would share these incredible stories. Like, I moved to Whitney my junior year and I didn't know anybody. And Zach took the time to come and welcome me to the school and make me feel safe. And I knew how much he touched us, but that's when I really saw how much he touched the world, and how much he's missed, beyond just our, the people that we knew. His reach and his positive influence extended really far. We're really proud of him for that. When we lost Zach, we didn't know what had happened. He didn't have a history of using drugs. There were no drugs in his room. There was no injury to his body. So the coroner's office right away said, well, there's no evidence of self-harm. Maybe he had a heart attack. Maybe, it could be an undiagnosed health, condition. But then they also speculated it could be this thing called fentanyl, which I had not heard of. I'd never had it, in a hospital setting, so I didn't know what they were talking about. And they let us know a little bit at that point, but we were just really, our heads were spinning. What is fentanyl? How could our straight A student get enough of something to kill him in his bedroom? So we waited for the confirmation, from the autopsy and the toxicology report. And very quickly, Chris and I decided we wanted to educate our community about this danger, because in the process, talking with our close friends, not just like us, no one else had heard about this. So when it was confirmed and an arrest was made in Zach's case, we were trying to figure out, how do we go public? How do we explain what this problem is? How do we go forward with this? But on the Today Show, there was an interview with a pretty famous radio psychologist. She's been on TV, and her name's Dr. Laura Berman. She lost her son Sam the same way, 16 years old. And they had a whole piece, maybe 5 minutes, on the Today Show with that family and with the parents that started Song for Charlie, the nonprofit organization. They had lost their son Charlie. He was 22. He was a college senior about to graduate from Santa Clara University. He died about 8 months before Zach. So they had already had this nonprofit going, and they were interviewed on the Today Show. So I grabbed Chris. I said, you've got to watch this interview. This exactly explains what happened to Zach. This is probably our way to go, public now that we can, to go public, because it explains it so well, and just share this link for this interview. So that's what we did. And it turns out the dad from Song for Charlie, he grew up in Davis, and he went to Jesuit high school. So he still has a lot of friends and connections up here. So someone we know in common saw my post about losing Zach, and that I had shared this link because they were part of that interview on the Today Show. And literally a few hours later, at the exact same time, I was on my computer going to Song for Charlie to send them an email about Zach. Right when that dad, my phone pinged, and he was messaging me because he had heard about it through social media. So we look at it like Charlie and Zach brought us together, because it was truly at the exact same second we were reaching out to each other. And I really believed I was being, guided to, that we were being guided to work with this family. And they're doing tremendous work. As I mentioned, they had about 8 months, they were about 8 months ahead of us. And the organization has just grown in a wonderful way in terms of the content that Song for Charlie has developed. And it's still a very small organization in terms of, it's just the mom and the dad. There's about 5 of us parents, that kind of manage this, helping give input, on how to get the word out and get the message out. And they're just doing incredible work. And all of the resources on Song for Charlie are free for students and teachers and, scout leaders and whoever wants to download any of the content to use in a learning setting. It's all available.
So I'd like to add to that. Song for Charlie is a tremendous nonprofit. It's family run, like Laura was saying. And it's kind of a grassroots effort, and they've had a tremendous, measurable success on how to get the message out. And their focus is more narrowed down to counterfeit prescription pills, which is really what is associated to their son Charlie and our son Zach, and what actually happened to them. And I think their messaging is rather creative. So they started getting in touch with executives at all the different or several different social media platforms, include Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and a few other tech companies, and asking them for support to market the Song for Charlie media that Song for Charlie has put together. Some very effective messaging, because they want to get to the teens, the young adults. So if they're on Snapchat or on Instagram, and these messages pop up, they're getting the messaging from their smartphone. There's also a school curriculum that the Beaverton School District outside or in Portland, Oregon has put together. Song for Charlie endorses. So then the message comes to the classroom. And then with the advocacy work used in interviews or town halls, the message gets to the families. So the idea is the young adults are getting the messages on their phone, in their classroom, and when they go home, so that at least right now that they know that there's deception behind what's happening and what they're buying off social media, so that they are at least aware that there is a danger out there.
And so probably what we should get into is what that danger is.
Yeah.
So
Nice
so
segue.
yeah. So what we have come to learn, we did not know any of this before we lost Zach. You guys have probably heard of the opioid crisis, and what, kind of in a nutshell, that was about was these opioid medications that started being really overprescribed. OxyContin was the big one, and they've started being prescribed for things that they really didn't need to be prescribed for. They were being overprescribed. Doctors were, funneling them into the black market, and people were getting addicted, and that whole situation is tragic in and of itself. Well, thankfully that was getting really cracked down on. These pill mills, as they were called, were getting shut down. Doctors were being disciplined and prosecuted for overprescribing. So that was all really good, right? It got a lot of these pills off of the black market. The problem is bad actors in cartels, people that want to make money off of drug sales in the black market, decided to fill that vacuum with counterfeit pills. And so these pills that are out there are made to look exactly like a Percocet pill or a Xanax or an Adderall or any of these name brands prescriptions that we're all familiar with now. This is, I'm sure you guys, you're a generation that you probably have had prescriptions yourself, maybe for anxiety or ADHD or a surgery or something. So it seems, it's very common name brand products. But what has happened now is these counterfeit pills are being made, and the drug that is in there is fentanyl, which is incredibly dangerous. Fentanyl is made in a lab. So that's the other difference that's happening now. It used to be that drugs were plant-based. So a lot of the drugs on the black market came from, are derived from plants, which that can, limit supply because you have to grow crops and you have to irrigate and you have to pay off farmers. And there's a lot of logistics and overhead with that. Well, fentanyl and these new things that are coming out, they're what we call synthetic drugs. So they're all just made from chemicals in labs. So you don't have to have land. You don't have to have all these people cultivating land. You don't have to worry about the seasons. You can, as long as you have access to chemicals and you know the recipe, you can put these things together. So now the supply is endless. And that's why this is everywhere. Fentanyl is incredibly cheap. So that's why drug dealers are incentivized to use it, because it's just incredibly cheap. So you're also seeing it in, cocaine and heroin and these harder street drugs. But what's really affecting your guys' demographic are these fake pills. Because like I said, it's such a recognizable name brand thing. They are capitalizing on the fact that you guys trust pills. But the difference between getting high and dying is a significantly small window. And you want to talk more about fentanyl and.
Well, I was going to add to what fentanyl is, for those who don't know, is a synthetic drug, like Laura said. Right now, the FDA approves roughly 14 or 15 different types of opioids. I believe 6 of them are synthetic or semi-synthetic. And fentanyl is the number one on the list as the most potent and most impactful. It's the only opioid that's measured in micrograms, where the rest are measured in milligrams. It takes roughly 2 grains of salt to be lethal of fentanyl. It's extremely potent. It's roughly 50 times more potent than heroin. And it's something not to mess with. The intent is that when fentanyl is administered appropriately, it's administered by a certified doctor and is supervised and monitored by a certified medical technician, a nurse, or a doctor. It's monitored while a patient is administered fentanyl. So it's extremely powerful and something not to be taken lightly. However, as Laura mentioned, it's extremely cheap to make because precursors currently are coming from China, which is like an ingredient to make a batch of fentanyl product. And people are buying pill press machines that are and blending machines to make a batch using a binding agent, which has basically a placebo, or not a placebo, but a no impact, and they put inside it fentanyl. And as Laura mentioned, it has the same shape, size, color, markings as a legitimate looking prescription pill. But there's no uniformity. Batches cannot have the exact dosing. It's hard to have assurances that this is a properly made prescription pill with a safe amount of fentanyl, because they're not made in a certified lab.
Yeah.
And that makes them extremely dangerous. So when they hit the streets, you really don't know. One of the early estimates is that for someone who actually buys these precursors from China, they can make a pill for as little as 5 cents a pill, sell them for $2 as a wholesaler, and then the drug dealers, as they get smuggled in, buy them for $2 a pill and then sell them for $20 to $25 a pill, or maybe even more. So you can see the significant markups along the way, and why they're using that is so much cheaper. There's a big profit of return. And if a person takes it, they get addicted to it, they know they're going to come back a lot more to be continuing to purchase their product.
One question that we always get is, well, I don't understand, if these people are running a business, why would they want to kill their customers? Well, it's not necessarily that they're intending to do that, but the margin of error with fentanyl is so narrow that, I could go on the dark web tomorrow and I could find sources on the dark web to buy the chemicals, and I could start making pills in my house. If I I could go on Amazon and buy a pill press and do all of this. But the thing with fentanyl is it's a powder. And so when you mix it, it never mixes evenly. It's like when you make chocolate chip cookies, and you might have one area of the batter that has all the chocolate chips, and depending on how well you mix it, but you can't guarantee there's exactly the same number of chocolate chips in each cookie. Mm-hmm. And these people aren't chemists, and they're just whipping them up, to just pump them out there. And like Chris said, the margin of profit is so large for them that, they don't look beyond that. And so a few customers die. Most of them, might not die, and they'll get addicted because fentanyl is incredibly addictive, and they'll come back for more of my pills, and so it's just very sad, because there's just a complete disregard for human life, in making these pills. And like I say, there's no quality control, and you may have tried one of these pills, or you may know someone who tried one of these pills, and you might think, well, they were okay. Well, they may have gotten one that had very little fentanyl in it, but the next pill might have enough to kill 5 people. So it's like Russian roulette anytime you go out there. We've connected with a lot of other parents all over the country. This problem is in every state. It's even in Hawaii and Alaska. It's that's just how they're able to smuggle these pills, and there are people manufacturing them right here in the States if they get a hold of the chemicals. And so we've gotten connected to a lot of families where, there were these two young ladies in Louisiana. They had just graduated, top of their class, and they were I don't even think they were at a party. I think they just kind of wanted to celebrate. They split a pill. One lady was okay. She, had some medical issues, but she was okay. And the other young lady died. So you can't test these pills like you or I, they can test them in a crime lab because they have the sophisticated equipment. But if you got one of these pills and you were trying to test it, you would not get, there just aren't the tools there to get like an accurate reading. So basically we just want to make sure kids, and young adults understand that these pills are everywhere in Sacramento County. The DA's office there, when they got their fentanyl death numbers back for 2020, they were incredibly alarmed because of how many young people were ending up in their morgue from fentanyl poisoning. So we've been working with them on a big public awareness campaign. In Sacramento, we've been working with Placer County as well because our numbers are actually
Worse.
per capita worse in Placer than Sacramento County. And just to get that information out, to the kids, because the other thing is if it doesn't, like with Zach, he was very early on in experimenting. It was over the holiday break, just from what we've been able to piece together from his phone and friends, that he just was kind of blowing off steam. Over the holiday break, he had just turned in his UC applications, and it was very brand new for him. Tragically, he encountered a deadly one very quickly on. But if you don't, and you just start becoming addicted to these pills, your life expectancy is very short. It's not going to take long before you get that one that will end your life.
I wanted to add one of the things you reminded me are some of the statistics. So the end of September, the DEA administrator in Milgram had a report. They kicked off a one pill can kill campaign, and for the first time in 6 years, the DEA office gave the first public safety warning about counterfeit prescription pills. And at that point in September, they had seized Customs and Border Protection has seized roughly 9.5 million pills. One of the things that was alarming from that discovery was that roughly 42% of these pills are estimated to be lethal. So, Laura mentioned earlier about Russian roulette. It's not one bullet in a gun barrel. It's actually 2, sometimes even 3 bullets in a 6-barrel chamber. So this is a Russian roulette game that can give you almost as bad as a 50% chance. You got half and half of a chance that you're going to consume something that's going to kill you, and you may not realize it. One other thing about that is the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency were saying that they think they were only seizing about 5%, as little as 5%. So last month, they estimated 11,201 pounds of fentanyl has been seized from April 2020 to April 2021, which can produce roughly 2.5 billion doses, which will kill every American 7 times over. So that's what they've seized. 95% is getting through. So what's on the streets right now, what is literally outside these stores, in this school, or in our neighborhoods, in our shopping centers, at the mall, it's around us. It's here. And we're wanting to ring the alarm to say, if you're getting anything off social media that you think is safe, that, hey, this is a product I can't get at a dispensary because I'm under 21, or because I don't want to go through the hassle of going to get a prescription from a doctor. It's more convenient to just buy it off social media. You need to stop and be aware that there's a lot of deception going on, and that these products have a lot of fentanyl in them, and it can be very dangerous.
Yeah. So the bottom line for us is when we realized, we went through all of this last year, because we're coming up almost on the 1-year anniversary of losing Zach. When we realized how much there was this information gap and we really wanted to be a part of the solution, and making sure that we shared with everybody, what we now know. Because we did notice over Christmas that Zach seemed a little bit more tired, than normal. We really didn't get a lot of warning signs, really any warning signs at all, except that he seemed a little bit more fatigued and kind of grumpy just for one day, literally less than 48 hours before he died. He just seemed a little bit kind of irritable on Christmas Day, but because he hadn't had a history of abusing, drugs, and because he was, just a top student and such a happy guy and had, just everything going right, we believed him when he said, "Oh, I'm just tired. I just stayed up till like 6 last night, playing my Minecraft with my buddies." And so we had no reason not to believe him. But I wish I had known to ask him, "Hey, Zach, do you know about that there's fake pills out there? Do you see drug dealers on Snapchat? Like, you're not trying any of this stuff, are you? Or like, let me make sure you understand what's happening out there." But we really didn't have, it used to be for us parents, we kind of would know the red flags to look for, right? Like, your students' grades have dropped. Maybe their friend group has changed. They're not interested in the things they used to be interested in. And you might have a chance, to intervene and say, "Hey, is something going on? Let's talk to a counselor. Let's get you help." But like with Zach, because he got a deadly pill so fast, we didn't even have time, to literally, like I say, we had like a day of him seeming, extra tired, and he was always around other people, and we talked to other people, and we were like, if we had ever noticed anything with Zach, we would have told you guys, but we never, he was doing great. So
the landscape has changed, like Laura's explaining, and it's a minefield out there now, not a slippery slope like it used to be.
yeah, and I think for your generation, it really is like this perfect storm of things that have happened. There's deadly drugs like we've never seen in our country before with fentanyl and the way it's being used deceptively. That is brand new for you guys. And then the accessibility on social media. That's a newer thing, where kids your age are being hit up, by these drug dealers, like, "Hey, I've got some Percocet," or, "Hey, you guys have finals coming up, I got Adderall," or whatever. That's a newer thing. And then, things are easing up, but like when we lost Zach, it was still very heavily locked down. So there was boredom or maybe some anxiety or, those kinds of things. So when you factor all of that together, these drug dealers are preying on that, and for us, it's just really important. We know that Zach would want us to warn his peers. We know that he would say, "Mom and Dad, now that you know all of this, like, warn my peer group." After Zach died, we got all his college acceptance letters, like 3 months afterwards, and he got in to UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz, and his top UC, which was UCLA. And we had to get that letter 3 months after we buried him. And picturing how he would have reacted. Think about that, you guys. You're applying for college. Like, if you received your acceptance letter to like your dream school, he would have been jumping all over the house and hooting and hollering, and instead we had to read it through tears and contact the UC system to say thank you so much for these offers, but Zach has tragically passed away and can't attend. And they sent us some very nice letters back. They read his essays, and they sent some very kind things back, but he's kind of gone forever, and we just really care about you guys and don't want your families to go through this, and we want you guys to enjoy all of the things you're working hard for, and to not get derailed by something like this. And there are real issues out there. You guys have so much pressure and so much, and we also want to be able, through being in touch with your teachers and your counselors and coaches, to prioritize making sure you guys know like the healthy resources to access. You know, if you are struggling with anxiety or depression or any of those types of things, that you guys really understand like where the healthy resources are, and to take this option totally off the table.
Yeah, you guys, you're an amazing generation. You are our future, and you've demonstrated it. You're the most informed generation I've ever seen, far more informed and capable and skilled than I was at your age. And you have so much potential, and you just need to know that there is a danger out there that is lethal. And most of your generation don't know that. You trust in what you understood, having grown up with an environment of prescription pills as a safe option for whatever you're looking for, whether you're needing help with anxiety or needing help with pain management, or you're just looking for a safe high. You know, Zach was well within the normal range of what a high school kid is trying to do to be the best version of himself, while adapting to a challenging environment of COVID restrictions and lockdowns and disappointment, and just wanting to be there for all of his family and friends. And sadly, so many kids have been victims of fraud. And we're not trying to tell you don't take drugs or solve the drug problem. We're just letting you know there is a danger out there, and that you're being deceived. We are all being deceived. And unfortunately, your demographic, your age demographic, is about 3 times more impacted than all of the other demographics. We really respect what you guys as your generation have done so far. Zach just amazed us every day with what he played on the piano, his intellectual conversations with us, his skills on a soccer field, his skills in a classroom. He was just starting his junior year and popped a 1550 on the SAT. So he's halfway through high school, and he's already practically almost perfected it. And he was incredibly capable. And so many others are so skilled, and to be deceived like this is not right. It's evil, and it cannot continue. We have to stop it.
And I just wanted to add a final word before the bell. Just that I think like you guys can be our greatest allies in this, because obviously as grown-ups, like we can talk and warn and share the information, but I really think like you guys can be super empowered, you know, to sit to share this information with your peers, because at whatever age we are, even at our age, you know, we tend to listen a lot more to people our age and life experience and all of that. So we're just really hoping that the more of you guys that we can educate, the more you guys can spread the information and say, oh, no, you guys don't, like, if you go to a party or if your knee is hurting and someone says, I got a Percocet, you know, let me tell you what I learned. Like, don't do this. Like, go to your doctor, go to your parents, go to your coach. If you really need something, like, do it the proper way. Get it from a pharmacy, get it from a doctor, get professional assistance, you know, with what's going on. And just really be allies with us.